So this is a video on sex and sexual energy. Before I go any further, it might not be for some people. You know, you might not be in the mood for it, quite simply, or it might be too dirty or too whatever. You just don't want to hear this kind of thing. That's cool. Take responsibility, listen to your instincts, and you can always come back to it later if you think, oh, I'm going to hear what he has to say. It's not necessarily going to be a clean, holy, consciousness-filled discussion. There could be some filth in it. Let's hope there is. It'll brighten up our day. Okay, so about a year ago I had intended to make a video last year on sex and sexual energy, and it just never happened. I just never felt right. But over the last few weeks, probably since about Christmas, a lot has happened for myself that I'm in that space that I feel I'm ready to speak a little about it. I feel that it might be a series of videos, so not necessarily a weekly thing or a daily thing. I might not record another one ever again, or it might be in 5 years' time, or it could be next week. It's more when the feeling takes me and I feel I have something to say, then I'll record it and see what happens. So, especially in the second half of last year, I began to receive a lot of downloads, if you like, of information during the night. Over time, consistently, I have become more conscious or more aware in the sleep state that I'm still conscious someplace else. My higher self or another part of me is still working. So the human is catching up on sleep and the human needs rest, but my being doesn't need rest, so my spirit or my being is still working. You know, especially the second half of last year, it was relentless. There was sometimes night after night after night. It's as though I was receiving training or relearning or remembering work on sexual energy, and that doesn't mean actual physical sex. That means, I don't even know, to be quite honest with you, what that means. It's you know, what I've learned in the last couple of months is that trying to explain some of this in a human body in an English language is almost impossible, if not impossible. There are the beings that we are and what we're capable of and how we work is far too great for a human not for a human understanding, but for an English language. So to find the terms of the words is just we're very limited. To be honest as well, it's not that I remember. A lot of this I felt was training or retraining or remembering. It's experiential. So I don't know if you remember in The Matrix, I think Neo, you know, they kind of downloaded karate moves and kung fu moves to Neo, and it all just goes into a system. So you wouldn't then sit down with Neo and say, well, how does karate work? You know, he's not going to say, well, I move my left arm up and then I move my right leg. He can show you, he can do it. So what I have understood or I'm understanding is a lot of this is experiential. It's in the being, it's in the body, it's in the spirit. So when we're in the moment with someone, be it sex or be it aside from sex, be it, you know, energy work or energy healing or reading a person, we don't have a book that we refer back to, and in chapter 7 it says, this is what you do. You look at them in the eyes and you see, you know, it's in the moment. We download or we channel or we receive that information live in that moment. We don't have a technique that we go to or a system, and it's not a mathematical equation or step by step. It all flows through. You can't hold on to anything. You don't know what's going to come. If anything is going to come, you don't know any awareness. It's just in that moment. Regarding sexual energy, it's the same thing. In that moment, we know, we have awarenesses of what's happening or how this works, of where we're going. A lot of the, I suppose, downloads, for want of a better word, because I wouldn't say it's information that I have received or continue to receive, it's not necessarily about actual sex. It's about what sex is and how it works. The chemistry, the physiology, the energy of it, and where it can take us beyond the body, out of the body, into other dimensions, with other beings, as our higher selves or as other beings, how we can raise and work with that sexual energy, with that Kundalini energy, that life force that's extremely powerful, that we just spit out, you know, that it's kind of wasted. Also, to kind of preface that, I'm not saintly. I'm far from saintly. It's I don't have hang-ups about sex. It's that I want more from sex, quite simply. Sex can become boring because a lot of our world teaches. I've read in a good number of books on sex and how to, good lovemaking and all that kind of stuff, but it's all technique, basically. And you can teach anyone technique in fucking half a day. It doesn't really, there's no heart in technique. So empty sex with people is just technique. Now, it might be pleasurable, you might enjoy it, you get relief, you might have a good orgasm. That's fantastic, I have no issue with any of that. But we might get to a point where we need more. We're looking for more. We're looking for something more expansive. And that explosive core Kundalini energy is fucking explosive and can take us to faraway places, to much higher states that we share with another being, with that being that we're having sex with, that we're making love with. And it doesn't have to be all saintly in Hollywood and mushy. It can be, you do whatever you want, as free as you want. We're all consenting adults, hopefully. It's about fun and play and being free ultimately of all the hang-ups that we all have and shame. As I've talked in previous videos, that I work with women as well in energy healing or in the self-care course. Men and women come into this life with, this is my understanding, come into this life with trauma that they're carrying, I am carrying, we're all carrying from previous lifetimes, from our ancestry, from our DNA line. So the abuses that women have received and that men have been part of, been party to, as the perpetrator and as the victim, because we've often been men and women ourselves, we've been both sexes, so we're all carrying that stuff. And now fast forward, we might find quite simply, quite frankly, that we're kind of turned off by genitals, by cocks, by pussies. We don't want blowjobs, we don't want this, we don't want that. We're not, but maybe we do it to please the other person, but maybe we're uneasy by it, maybe there's shame involved, and often we don't really know why. If we can look at someone, and I feel if we can see, beautiful face or features, or their energy, their style, when someone just has a freedom. Personally, for me, I want that same appreciation for all of the being, everything, all of their shape, all the stuff that they might not like about themselves, be it their pussy, be it their if they're overweight in places or wherever, that we're looking to move beyond the body, we're looking to move into the soul, but also to embrace the body and everything with it. That means embracing all of the person. It means worshipping and accepting an unconditional love for all of that being. And this isn't an instant step or an instant move. It obviously is something we have to work towards with a willing partner. See how we go, mind how we go, because it can be tricky. So what I've also learned as well recently is that, and I include myself in this, is that people who seem to be quite free sexually, quite liberated sexually, seem to be quite restricted emotionally, or a better way of putting it, restricted with intimacy. So that's why I have big issues with technique in sex, because I just feel it's bullshit. It's a performance. Anyone can learn technique. It's like, I think I said recently, it's like strong women. I'm not really interested in strong women. I'm interested in open-hearted women. That's courageous. There's love in that. There's being seen. There's a risk in that. There's sharing in that. Anyone can be strong. It's just a wall. It's a toughness. It's a survival mode. It doesn't do much for me. Technique, it doesn't do much for me. Try all the tricks. Not really turned on by it. I want to know what's in your heart. I want to see your heart, and I want you to share your heart with me. And ultimately, obviously, I'd like to be free enough to share my heart with you, to be open with you. And as I say, that doesn't necessarily mean mushy Hollywood. I love you so much. I love you too. But it might do, and that's okay too. It might mean hair pulling and slapping and biting and fun. because it's ultimately it's meant to be enjoyable. It's meant to be playful. It's meant to be fun. It's not meant to be intense, or certainly that's my message. That's my downloads or my experience. It's not meant to be all serious, and just have fun, bring lightness to it. So there is a resurgence, I suppose, if you like, at the moment, or it has been for a few years, around sex and spirituality. There are people that I would communicate with and work with around sexual energy, but I feel no attraction or no interest to the Tantra world. I'd say almost zero. It doesn't resonate with me. I would suggest to anyone listening to this who's curious or who wants to go further or who already is out there in the Tantra world or any kind of sexual work, to feel into yourself ultimately, no pun intended, to feel into how does your instinct feel, how's your gut feel about this book or this workshop or these people. Because there are people in here that are looking to get off and they don't know any better. They think, I've been on a Tantra weekend, I'm really spiritual, man. When it comes down to it, they may struggle to open their heart, and maybe they're not. Maybe it would be best for them to not be in that Tantra workshop. There might be other work that might be better for them to help them to connect with their own fear, their own stuff, whatever you want to call it under that big umbrella, and to clear some of that, make peace with themselves. Then perhaps enter the Tantra world or whatever. We're on our own path and journey. I'm not judging, but I'm just saying for me, I'm not drawn to that. There are other practices or other works that work for me and that allow me to get into that space, to face those bits of shame and pain and fear of being seen, fear of like being vulnerable and maybe being rejected. As a man, there can be all sorts of stuff about, maybe I'm not manly enough. Maybe she thinks I'm not a real man, I'm not masculine enough. Maybe she'll laugh at me. Maybe she's not in this space. And of course women have similar stuff themselves, that fear of rejection, that women have to ultimately open up physically, literally, to a man. And that's terrifying. Again, the fear of rejection. We go as far as we're able. But if we can go further with the right person, in the right atmosphere, in the right work, there is expansion in it, there's growth in it, because it's not just that our sex improves, although it will. It's that our openness in the rest of our day and the rest of our life improves. We move more into ourselves. We're more accepting of ourselves. We're more open with who we are. I didn't go to some of the places in this recording that I had expected I would. It doesn't feel right now, so maybe I will another time. Ultimately, as you know from my previous videos or articles, that I see everything as a reflection. If I'm encountering closed people or aggressive people or whatever, that it's a reflection of me, and I have to work on that in me and clear that and make peace with that. And then the people I encounter will be different, or the energy they bring to me will be different. So keep that in mind regarding sex or intimate relationships. Ultimately, it starts with me. It's very easy to kind of say that he or she is not really open or loving or whatever. But ultimately, it's about my relationship with myself, your relationship with you. And as you can be open and be more courageous or more at peace, and it doesn't mean reckless, it doesn't mean going out and just being open to a fucking stranger or to your partner. It's about making peace with ourselves. I'm not plugging my course or any of that stuff, but for me it kind of comes back to my own self-talk. My own self-talk and encountering my own shadow, making peace with me. Because when I'm at peace with myself, I'm at peace with the world. And when I'm at peace with myself and I'm open with me, I can be open and more open with other people or with an intimate partner, be that a long-term or a casual or whatever, or someone in the shops, I don't often have sex in shops, but in the middle of the day, but when it happens. So what I was going to say was, to finish up, is that we have a habit of locking away our sexual experiences or sex in society. It's something risque, and it's on the internet, it's something you do behind closed doors. We like to keep that away. We like to keep that kind of private and hidden, not really to be something that other people know about. So in this modern, pretty fucked up basket case world, we lock away our sexual desire. So anything that's in the shadow, anything that's repressed, eventually it'll pop up one way or another. You know, from the days when I was drinking 18 years ago, the trying to not drink, and then eventually just going on a bender that I'd be uncontrollable. The same happens with sex. When we repress that desire, we'll find ourselves, you know, getting drunk on a Friday night and picking up a stranger or whatever it is, you know, be it pornography or some sort of outlet, because it's there. It's a part of us. It needs to be addressed and worked with and acknowledged and looked at. One way of beginning that work might be, if we consider that we lock away this energy as a result of the church and teachers and our parents and all that other kind of dysfunction, it's hidden, it's private, and it's maybe a bit dirty, or it's something you don't talk about, it's something to be at times often ashamed of and all that kind of stuff. So we all do it. We all enjoy it, hopefully. Sexual energy is not just in that room behind that door. It's actually at times, I've seen it as a golden thread. So if I'm working with a woman, or if I meet a woman in a supermarket, you know, and I'm paying for my groceries, anything normal, having a conversation with a stranger on the street, there is a golden thread of sexual energy that passes between both of us, out the crown of the head, up through the pelvis, and vice versa. They're going both directions, if you like, between the two people. To be conscious of that. Now, it doesn't mean there's, you know, any kind of flirtatiousness or overt sexuality or any of that. No intention. It's an openness. So to stand with that person, and I wouldn't recommend saying any of this to the stranger, by the way. We're sharing a sexual thread of golden energy. What the fuck? I think keep this stuff to yourself for now. Be aware of your pelvis being open, of your hips open, everything, of your solar plexus, your stomach, your heart. For the ladies, between your legs, your vagina, your pussy open, your throat open. And this is a step by step. It's not an instant. Don't walk up to some stranger on the street on a Friday night and just go, I'm open. I don't recommend that either. Bit by bit, it's something to practice. But we can feel that there is, and it's not flirtatiousness. Again, I have to stress that. It's not about sex. It's just an openness of me being seen, or sharing my masculine, my divine masculine, my higher masculine energy with this being, with this woman. And in turn, I can acknowledge her higher feminine, her divine feminine energy. That's it. It's openness, it's love, it's friendliness. I don't really know what other words to use, but it's an exploration too, and it's practice, and it's to see what that feels like and how other people respond to it without having the conversation. You don't even need to go near the conversation. It's something you just practice yourself. But it can help to change our own relationship. Ultimately, it's the relationship with ourselves. How I respond to my own sexuality, to my own cock, you know, to my own masturbation, to how I touch myself, to how I want to be touched, to how I see myself as a man and how you see yourself as a woman, what you may be ashamed of, what you may think is dirty or is not ladylike or any of that. All that stuff could be deep in the subconscious. And about revisiting and just seeing what those things are, that we can gradually clear them and make peace. And for myself, ultimately, I want to be free of any of that shit. I seek liberation, so then I can choose freely what I would like to experience. And if I have a willing partner, I can go there and experience that without any hang-ups or without any of the dysfunction or shit that's in my subconscious or in my DNA or that I've carried in from previous lives, but to be free and see where that shared experience, sharing my essence, my being, my spirit with this other beautiful being, and just melding our energies together to see where that goes, what it feels like. And ultimately the point is blast up and raise our vibration, raise that kundalini up to the heart and beyond. That's the long-term goal, that's the work. So I hope that was of use to people. Give it a thumbs up if it was. Be free to leave a comment. Consider signing up to my newsletter. I'll put a link below. One last thing. There's a meditation app called Insight Timer. In this app, I have a group called Mindful Self-Talk, which is about self-care. It's about healing all that stuff that comes up. So be free to join that. If you can't find it, send me a message and I can send you an invite and get people there. And that's it. Enjoy your day.